Yo, Furret used is a metagame played in Gen 9 Anything Goes, where only Furret is allowed, and I'm gonna rank the Tera types. Long intros are annoying, so let's get this started. So, I'm gonna go top to bottom on this list because I feel like it's pretty obvious what number 1 is. It's Tera Ghost. I mean, in a tier with only normals, of course the type that resists both every Pokemon stab and the only super effective type is going to reign supreme. Want to win button? Because this Tera type has 3. It can be used to stop the opponent's sweep by blanking an opponent's move, or it can be used defensively, ensuring the victory once you've already set up. Or, since the meta is defined by Baton Pass, you can simply use it for a setup turn. Really, there's no going wrong with Tera Ghost, and one smart play with it can win you the game. The main downside is that apart from fighting moves, the most common attacking type is probably Dark, since knockoff is so prevalent and effective, but it can definitely be worked around mainly by just passing to one of your normal type Furrets. Realistically, about half of your team should be Tera Ghost. It's pretty clear it's number 1. But if you want to resist both Dark type and fighting type moves, Tera Fairy is the way to go. It's the only Tera type that's even close to in contention with Tera Ghost, and that's because the utility of being able to resist both of Furret's primary attacking types is incredibly high. You'll usually use this Tera more offensively, since in a position where you're getting sweep, Tera Ghost will almost always be better. But if you have defensive stat boosts on both sides, simply going into Tera Fairy is an incredible win con, since it's just insanely hard to hit. Plus, running Play Rough can be pretty good with it, since it'll let you hit basically any Furret for neutral damage. That being said, I think it goes pretty firmly below Tera Ghost, since the immunity to both fighting and normal is just too good. So, those are by far the most meta-defying types. On to some other good ones. If you think I've been blabbering about strategy too much the past 2 entries, you'll love Tera Fighting. Basically, its only purpose is to be a nuke. It's a pretty bad idea to Tera with this type before the opponent's Tera is taken care of, but once it's gone, you'll have the most straightforward way to win in this tier. You just press Brick Break and or Focus Blast until the opponent is dead, which will not take that long. It's pretty damn good. I mean, of course, the thing holding it back is its simplicity, and your opponent can completely ruin your day with a simple Tera Ghost, which they will have, to be clear. At least the defensive utility is not 0, it gets rid of your fighting weakness. It's definitely worth running on more offensively minded teams. Now, here's one that might surprise you. Tera Poison is actually pretty good. I mean, you resist Fairy and Fighting, and you're not weak to any other prominent Tera types, but the real thing you're running Tera Poison for is for some really nasty trick strats with either Toxic Orb or Black Sludge. It can be genuinely really hard to deal with that if you're not prepared. Run Charm and pass an Amnesia to that thing, it's absurdly hard to kill. That can generally be true of any Tera type that matches up decently against the other relevant ones, but with the right strategy, the best thing your opponent can hit you with is maybe some normal moves if they have them, a weak itemless knockoff, and a resisted Brick Break. If you're not prepared for it, it will make you want to tear your hair out. It's insane. On to the next one. Tera Stellar in this tier can be quite nice, which might come off as shocking if you play like normal metagames. But no, considering how powerful Tera can be in this metagame, with it adding a huge number of ways to blink your opponent, mess with their head, or set up a win con, it can be nice to just ignore all of that and tell your opponent to piss off. Now, a lot of Tera types we're getting into are going to start having some major opportunity costs, considering you could just run Tera Ghost. But Tera Stellar is the perfect Tera to run on basically an offensive pivot, one that just runs special moves and harasses the opponent with consistent damage, but not really intended to be a win con or anything, something like this set right here. There's basically no reason to Tera this Furret into a Ghost type anyway, so hey, if your opponent pulled out some like Tera Dragon nonsense or something, you're chilling. Also, I've been told before that I gassed Tera Stellar up way too much, so take this placement with a grain of salt. Okay, onto the niche tier. First we have Tera Dark. The allure of knockoff and stab sucker punch is pretty tempting, I get that. And it definitely can have some value. It's basically like the best counter to Tera Ghost, and those moves really do hit hard with the stab boost, but the problem is, that's all it's really good for. It's a Tera Ghost counter. And it's not even that much better than using your own Tera Ghost or Fairy. Tera Ghost rarely ever actually runs stab for hopefully obvious reasons, which means it'll probably be running a fighting and dark move, and at that point, why not just run Fairy to resist both, or Ghost to be immune to one? Well, the answer is that the stab boost is genuinely really powerful. But that's really all, and once again, with these more niche types, the opportunity cost is super important to consider. Like, why not just run Tera Ghost or Fairy? The higher ranking Teras have an answer that really make them worth it, but from this point on, the question is going to become way harder to answer. Tera Normal is basically Tera Fighting at home, with the main advantage being that you're safe from the Poison and Fairy Teras that were going to mug you at the Burger King. But aside from ignoring those 2 resistances, Tera Fighting is just straight up hitting harder than Tera Normal with a few exceptions. A couple of reasons I can think of to run it is, one, on a last resort for it, which will be doing ridiculous damage if you somehow manage to set it up. 2, Hyper Voice, specifically to get past Substitute, which isn't even that good in the tier. 3, Double Edge also does a bit more damage than Brick Breaker with the Tera, but it's also Double Edge, so say goodbye to your health. And there's like kind of 4, Hyper Beam and Giga Impact, I guess. All of these are technically things that you can run, but you also found them in the garbage, so put them back. If you really want a sparkly win button, run Sub-Reversal Tera Fighting. It's also kind of bad, but it's the most powerful hit you're gonna get in the tier. The first of 3 types in the Resist Fighting, and that's kind of it, so why not just run Tera Fairy Club, is Bug. Only this time the type is resisted by the 4 best Tera types, so have fun with that. However, what it does have is Stab U-Turn, and U-Turn is a really good move. Now, it's worth noting that that's a lot less true in this metagame where Baton Pass chains are so common, but man, does a Tera Bug U-Turn hit pretty hard and provide amazing utility. It's definitely a meme, but one of my favorite leads is Choice Band U-Turn and immediately Terraing turn 1. It's always hilarious. It also resists fighting, so that's something. Next is Tera Water. Yeah, it might surprise you how high it is. Furret gets Rain Dance and Surf, so it can just run a rain set if it wants. On that same set, you can also run Thunder for a 30% para chance, so it's not the worst thing in the world. If you can stomach the fact that a Focus Blast is still doing about 18% more damage than a Tera Water Rain Boosted Surf, then sure, it can be good. Not missing is nice at least. Stab Chilling Water could also be something, at least it's not weak to the most common attacking type, unlike Dark and Normal. However, we're kind of already at the bottom of the barrel, and we have 11 more to go. Alright, into the not worth it tier. You could argue that water should be in here as well, but I have a little faith in it. Topping off this tier is Tera Psychic. First off, it's yet another Tera type in the worst Tera Fairy Club, but at least at this time it has something kind of going for it. The main draw is beating Tera Poison, although Stellar I think just does that better. But also gets Stab on a 30% flinch chance move, which means you can fish for reverse Focus Blast misses and make your opponent cry a bit. However, it's also hit super effectively by Dark type moves, so trust me, it's barely winning. Tera Electric. One reason you'd run this is for basically the same reason as Tera Water on a rain team, but this time you even get a rain boost. Again though, 30% para is nice even if Body Slam can do it as well. And it actually kind of has something else to do. Charge Beam is a move I haven't seen much playing the tier, but I think it's better than the usage makes it seem. Getting Stab on that could also be good. Tera Electric stocks may be super low in value, but at least for about 2 of them. Next up, Tera Fire is mostly trash. Like, some teams are basically just worse rain teams, and they're already really bad, so running in a sun context is basically worthless. The other thing it has going for it is that it can hold a Flame Orb without being burned, and Flame Orb is actually pretty good to trick or fling onto an opponent. Yeah, but that's about all the positivity I have to share about it. Flame Orb is good, but running your Tera for it, that's a bit of a waste. Tera Ground has exactly one reason it's not bottom 3, and that's Dig. You can get behind a sub and spam Dig while running leftovers, that's actually pretty messed up. I mean, most teams are going to be running Tidy Up, so your strategy is probably going to get countered, but while you're doing it, getting Stab on your stall move can be good. But once again, it's important to ask, is it really worth it over complete immunity to the most common attacking types or resistances to the 2 most common? And your answer should probably be no. Tera Steel in normal tiers is basically a I want to resist everything button, and that's what it is here too, except it doesn't apply whatsoever towards the moves people are actually using. Great start. Tera Blast could hit Fairy Teras, and against a bunch of more niche types it could be the play for the resistance, but if you've been paying attention you'd notice that there are less types Tera Steel resists above it on the tier list than below it, so good luck with that. Last in the worst Tera Fairy Club is Tera Flying, but now it has basically 0 benefits. We're just looking at the matchup chart for this one. Compared to Tera Fairy, it's no longer weak to Poison or Steel, but is now hit neutrally by Dark. To be fair, that gives it no even remotely relevant weaknesses, but that's also true of Tera Poison, which resists everything it does while having much more utility outside of that. Now, it can also run Tera Blast to hit fighting and bug Teras, but at this point you're left with the Tera type whose niche is to be Tera Poison with no benefits except the resistances, and even then you don't resist the second most important one. It hits fighting and bug type super effectively, even though one of those Teras is bad and the other is also countered by Tera Poison or Fairy, but it's immune to Dig new meta! Tera Grass is bad. Look at me in the eye and tell me getting Stab on Trailblaze is worth using your Tera for. You can't. Oh, but you also get Seed Bomb, which is technically a move, and you can even use Solar Beam on your Sun team. Ah ha 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 ha, next. Finally at rock bottom. So yeah, Tera Rock is worse than Tera Steel, and that's saying something. You can resist fire type moves now instead of being weak to them, as if that matters, and your Tera Blast is also kind of better. Although it doesn't hit an actually good Tera type anymore, it can at least hit more types. I'm really stretching for some justifications using it, but that's kind of it. Tera Dragon does not give stab to any of Furret's moves, can't hit the second most common Tera, and hits nothing super effectively except itself. This is easily the worst defensive Tera type, and it's not even close. Defensively, it gets resistances to 4 elemental types that aren't good, but might be seen, and hey, like a few of them, it at least doesn't take super effective damage from anything relevant. But still, there's literally zero reason to use this ever unless you want to style on your opponent. Well, last place. But first, I have an offer for you. You want to get a 50% bonus to a move that has a 10% chance to freeze and that's it? No? Well, Tera Ice can do that for you anyway. And on top of that, it can also heavily handicap your defenses. You at least have everything neutrally, but you just threw all of your potential resistances away for a weakness to the most common attacking type. At least Steel and Rock have the audacity to blank a bunch of weak types. But with Ice, you'd usually be better off just not terastallizing so you don't gain 3 weaknesses and lose your immunity to Ghost. Not exactly the best thing to use your one-time Tera for. Overall, a lot of these types at the bottom are bad, but this one is like an active detriment to you a lot of the time. Alright, that's all. For any Furret used players, tell me how much you disagree with me, and for anyone else, play Furret used. There's a link to a Discord server for it in the description, and it's a ton of fun. Anyway, like if you want, bye.